Most hero sections look beautiful, but are they really converting is the question that we need to ask. Now, if you've ever spent hours trying to make pixel perfect hero sections and then wonder why users are not clicking, you might be focusing on impressing other designers rather than focusing on making the user take a specific action. And today we'll fix that. Because the first 10 seconds anyone lands on a specific website is the deciding factor if they're going to actually take an action and either scroll the website or click on a specific button, or they're just going to bounce and leave the website. And we're going to take a look at some of the most common mistakes that designers do that cause cognitive overload. It just means that the user is overloaded with a lot of options and they don't know what to do and they just leave, never taking any action. And that eventually costs your client a lot of lost money. In the next few minutes, you'll get a blueprint to design hero sections that not only look good, but also converts. We'll break down the key elements, we'll call out some of the most common mistakes, we'll have a checklist of the things that we should do and the things that we should try to avoid as designers. We'll start with the simplest of questions, right? So what is a hero section? A hero section is basically the storefront of the website. It's called above the fold section. It is the section that the user sees as soon as they enter the website. And it usually is a full width block and it should have a specific purpose. So that takes us to the second question. So what is the purpose of a hero section? Its purpose is to very clearly communicate what this website is about and what the user is going to get out of it and why they should care. So that is the purpose and that is what it is. Now, let's talk about the anatomy of that hero section and what it should contain to get to that purpose, right? So it should have a bunch of interconnected elements that all serve that purpose that we talked about. And the first of these elements is a headline. A headline is the most important bit of the website. It is the first thing that your user should see, and that should be clearly distinguishable from the rest of the elements because of the size of it. And it should basically contain the main value proposition. And it should be as clear as possible. And there are many studies that show that clarity here matters more than saying something that's clever or saying something that's like has a lot of marketing words and stuff like that. So it needs to be very clear and it needs to very quickly communicate the value proposition. So that's the heading. Now the next is the subheading. Subheading is basically supporting copy to clarify what you've just mentioned in the heading, right? So it should reduce that cognitive load. It should explain a bit more, give a bit more context. And then the third element, which is very, very important, which is the hero visual or the hero image. That, let's say in a SaaS website, it could be a screenshot of the dashboard, for example, or maybe some animations of UI elements that explain what the product is about. Or in other cases, it could be a video or an image, right? And usually here, it's very important to have, visuals that increase the trust, not decrease that. So for example, if you use stock images here, that could decrease the trust and you don't want to do that. And that takes us to the next element, which is some sort of a trust signal or trust factor. These are small, but very powerful. These could be logos, they could be, badges, reviews maybe. These would increase the possibility of the user actually taking action because you've just gained their trust. And the last bit, which is call to action, which is the most important thing because you want the user to do something. And that's why he's on the website, right? So that is called the CTA or the call to action. And that's usually in the form of a button, or it is in a form of a button. There could be a secondary button. So there's obviously the primary button and then the secondary button. In some cases, it's actually like a form to enter your email, maybe let's say to join the waitlist. But for the most part, it is a button because even that form will have a button, right, to join the waitlist. So that's the CTA and that's the button. And that's the anatomy of the hero section and everything about the hero section. All right, so now let's talk about the problems. And the problems that we see a lot when it comes to hero sections, I think can be mainly divided into two main groups. The first group is just poorly designed heroes, and that could be many things actually. First is maybe a vague headline, right? So you enter the website, you start reading the website, the heading, and it means nothing. Like, we build solutions for the future. All right. So what do you mean, right? So that is just from a content perspective, but there are many other things that contribute to just a poorly designed hero section. That could be just a lot of headings, a lot of there isn't any clear text hierarchy. So when you're not following design rules, and you just end up with a poorly designed hero. There is no clear hierarchy. You don't know what's a heading and what's not, what's a subheading. There are maybe multiple CTAs, right? Or many colors. So they're just poorly designed in terms of aesthetics and in terms of content. If you're trying to add in a lot of elements and you're quote unquote overstuffing, or trying to fit everything because this is the hero section and let's put everything there, that just causes cognitive overload, and basically it's a recipe for disaster because the user is not clicking on anything. In some other cases, which is even worse, they don't know what to click because it might have hidden CTAs. Like, the CTA is very hidden or not clear or isn't very specifically laid out. So hidden CTAs is also one of the things that contribute to a poorly designed hero section. And then there's the other the other group of problems. And I think for these hero sections, they're actually designed I wouldn't say designed pretty well, but at least they look nice. And I think that's most of the dribble shots that we see. For these websites, they might win awards, right? They definitely look cool, maybe have a lot of very nice animations and cool interactions. But again, it's just too much. For example, if you have a very heavy parallax animation, it looks great when you're showcasing it, but it either kills usability or kills performance. And you don't want to do either of that. And then maybe you have clever headings and clever subheadings, like the text is actually laid out in a nice, clever way, but it's not clear. And people don't have an hour to start deciphering what you mean, right? So you just have to be super clear, and you have to very clearly say what the value proposition is. No clever here, especially in the hero sections. And then other websites might have really cool background videos and very nice effects, hover interactions and whatnot, and it actually takes so much skill to come up with these things. Sometimes it's even 3D, and it's really, really on another level. But again, I would still consider that, and many other designers would still consider who are value driven, and want to actually achieve something with their designs. It's just these overly designed websites, usually they're not the best in terms of actually working, but they might look good, and they might end up winning you a bunch of awards. These are the problems. We've discussed what the problems are at. Here is part 4, what to do instead, right? So over the years, as I'm designing websites, I've compiled a list of, let's say, the to-do list, right, of things I need to keep top of mind when I'm designing hero sections. And I usually follow these pointers, and I'm sharing them with you. Hopefully they're going to be helpful to you in your next hero section design. So first and foremost is always have clarity front and center. So one sharp headline, one sharp subheading, and one very clear CTA, right? So these 3 elements, very, very clear. And it's not only the text that goes in there, it's actually the hierarchy as well. So the heading, big, bold, and then subheading, obviously small, to create that contrast between the heading and the subheading, and then a very clear CTA, and usually either use the accent color or something that stands out from the background. So clarity, front and center. And then, being concise is another one of these, one of these items in the checklist. You have to be very concise. As I mentioned, we have just a bunch of seconds to grab the attention, or the user just loses interest and just leaves the website or is not interested to even take any action. And in terms of the visuals, it should be a visual with purpose. You want a visual that communicates something and adds context to the heading and subheading and CTA that you've mentioned. And then another part of that, another element in that to-do list is adding in trust elements. This is very important because you want the user to take action, right? And for the user to take action, they need to feel safe. And one of the elements that makes a user feel safe is when they see other people dealing with that specific company or, that website. One of the most important things in that to-do list or these pointers that we need to follow is mobile. I wouldn't say mobile first, but I would say the website needs to function on mobile. There are many studies showing that a majority of the users will enter your website through a phone. So if you have an amazing website that looks super nice on laptops but doesn't work on a phone, then you're basically losing out on the majority of the people that are going to enter the website. And lastly, in that to-do list is fast loading. Fast loading is super important, and that's more on the development side, but it is important as a designer as well to keep in mind these things. So when you're, let's say, exporting these images, you have to, let's say, export it in WebP. You have to optimize the videos. Instead of having MP4 videos, we can go with, let's say, Lottie files, right? So optimizing the exports so that the fast load, you have a very fast loading speed, and people are not just clicking off of the website because they can't see what's in there. And that's pretty much it. A good hero section or a great hero section really is something that's super clear and it communicates value right away. It builds trust. It gives relevant information and relevant visuals, and it has a strong call to action. It guides the user through the information that's presented and allows the user to take action with little to no friction. And if you watched the video this far and you thought this was some interesting information, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And you're also welcome to join the Discord community, which is free at the moment. It's not going to be free forever. So if you click on the link and it's not free, then maybe it's a bit too late. But now it's free, and you will have access to a bunch of premium resources. And it will have, one of these premium resources is going to be a curated gallery of the best hero sections or the best websites with the best hero sections. So you can learn from these and you try to replicate them for your next project. And if you have a brand and need a hero section that actually works and converts, then this is what we do at Effect.Design. And right here is what YouTube thinks you should watch next from my channel. So let me know if this is actually something that you'll be interested in. I'll see you on the next one.